The U.S. Department of Justice's decision to sue New York City over its sanctuary policies reignites one of the most polarizing debates in American politics: the balance between local governance and federal authority in immigration enforcement. The lawsuit, spearheaded by the Trump administration, alleges that the city's policies deliberately obstruct the federal government's immigration laws. But beyond the legal arguments lies a deeper ideological divide over how to treat undocumented immigrants, what role cities should play in enforcement, and what kind of country America should be. Background of sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are municipalities that adopt policies to limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement, especially regarding ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. These policies often prohibit local law enforcement from honoring ICE detainer requests unless specific legal criteria are met. The rationale behind these policies stems from public safety and trust. Advocates argue that if undocumented immigrants fear deportation for reporting crimes or accessing public services, entire communities become less safe. Critics, however, see sanctuary cities as a haven for criminal aliens and a flagrant disregard for federal law. Legal and political context. The Trump administration has long targeted sanctuary jurisdictions, framing them as obstacles to national security. The administration has issued executive orders to strip funding from non-compliant cities, pushed for legislative changes, and now is turning to litigation. This lawsuit against New York City represents a pivotal moment in the legal battle between federal immigration prerogatives and local autonomy. The outcome could set precedents affecting cities across the country. Overview of the lawsuit. Filed in a federal court in New York, the lawsuit names Mayor Eric Adams and several city officials as defendants. The Trump DOJ accuses NYC of obstructing federal immigration enforcement by refusing to honor ICE detainers, using local laws to shield criminal non-citizens, and creating an atmosphere of non-cooperation with federal authorities. Central to the lawsuit is the claim that NYC's policies violate the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which gives federal law precedence over state and local statutes. New York City's sanctuary policies. New York's sanctuary city status dates back to 1989, but its policies have been updated several times since, particularly in 2014. Key provisions include NYPD and Department of Corrections, DOC, refusal to honor ICE detainers without a judicial warrant. ICE notification only if the individual was convicted of a serious or violent crime in the past 5 years or matches the federal terrorist watch list. Limitations on local cooperation during ICE raids unless required by federal law. Supporters argue these rules help build trust between immigrant communities and city services, while critics see them as barriers to lawful enforcement. Federal arguments. DOJ's perspective. The Justice Department argues that New York City's laws intentionally impede federal immigration efforts, violate federal statutes requiring cooperation between local and federal agencies, endanger public safety by releasing individuals who pose a threat to society. Quoting the lawsuit, New York City has long been at the vanguard of interfering with enforcing this country's immigration laws. The administration asserts that cities cannot selectively choose which federal laws to honor. Local defense. Mayor Adams and city officials. Mayor Adams, through his press secretary, defended the city's policies as efforts to ensure all residents feel safe. No one should be afraid to dial 911, send their kids to school, or go to the hospital, said Kayla Mamalak-Altus. Adams acknowledged the need for balance. While supporting the spirit of sanctuary laws, he expressed concern that some local statutes go too far, particularly regarding violent offenders. He has urged the City Council to reassess these laws, a request they have declined thus far. Crime, safety, and the public debate. The DOJ cites instances of crime allegedly committed by undocumented immigrants to justify its lawsuit. U.S. Rep. Nicole Maliotakis referenced a FOIA request showing over 16,000 crimes committed by people living in shelters or hotels at taxpayer expense. However, multiple studies show that immigrants, both documented and undocumented, commit crimes at lower rates than native-born citizens. The debate continues, with each side citing different data sets and anecdotal examples, political motivations, and timing. Critics of the lawsuit argue it is politically motivated, a way to galvanize the Trump base ahead of elections by portraying Democratic-led cities as chaotic and lawless. Supporters claim it's a necessary legal move to ensure uniform enforcement of immigration laws. The political ramifications are immense, especially in swing states where immigration is a hot-button issue. The role of ICE and federal detainer requests. At the heart of the issue are ICE detainer requests notices asking local jails to hold individuals for up to 48 hours so ICE can assume custody. NYC's policy to ignore these requests without a judicial warrant is legally contentious. Federal authorities argue that such refusals allow criminals to slip through the cracks. NYC counters that honoring non-warranted detainers could violate constitutional protections, including due process. Broader national implications? If successful, the lawsuit could have national consequences, effectively curbing sanctuary policies in dozens of cities. It would bolster federal authority and pressure other jurisdictions to comply. Conversely, if NYC prevails, it could empower more cities to adopt or strengthen sanctuary policies, setting up a clash with federal immigration priorities. Legal precedents and constitutional issues. Key legal questions include: do sanctuary city policies violate the Supremacy Clause? Can the federal government compel local governments to enforce immigration laws? What are the constitutional limits of ICE detainers without a warrant? Past cases, e.g., Prince v. United States, City of Chicago v. Send. Sessions have emphasized that the federal government cannot commandeer local resources for federal purposes, giving sanctuary cities some legal standing. Historical evolution of NYC's policies, 1989-present. NYC's sanctuary status began with Executive Order 124, signed in 1989 by Mayor Ed Koch. It prohibited city employees from inquiring about immigration status. In 2014, under Mayor Bill de Blasio, the city passed new laws limiting ICE cooperation even further, including the judicial warrant requirement. The evolution of these laws reflects changing political climates, immigration patterns, and public attitudes. Sanctuary cities versus federal authority, a legal tug-of-war. This case is emblematic of a larger legal battle playing out across the country. Sanctuary cities claim their policies are essential to community policing and public health. The federal government argues that these policies are unconstitutional, dangerous, and disruptive. Legal scholars remain divided on whether the courts will side with local discretion or federal supremacy. Fiscal and social impact of the lawsuit. Beyond the courtroom, the lawsuit could drain city resources defending legal challenges, frighten undocumented residents and deter them from accessing public services, intensify political divisions in NYC and beyond. On the federal side, success could lead to tighter immigration enforcement, but also ignite backlash in urban centers. Voices from the community, New Yorkers react. Reactions in NYC are predictably split. Immigrant advocacy groups condemn the lawsuit as xenophobic and harmful. Law enforcement officials express concern over losing trust with immigrant communities. Some residents welcome the lawsuit, citing safety concerns and rising crime. The tension between fear and safety, trust and enforcement, plays out daily in NYC neighborhood. Comparative case: Los Angeles and other sanctuary cities. In June, the DOJ also sued Los Angeles, a city with similar sanctuary policies. The outcome of that case could influence the NYC lawsuit. Other sanctuary jurisdictions, San Francisco, Chicago, Seattle, are watching closely. If NYC loses, they could face similar legal action. Republican versus Democratic perspectives. The lawsuit highlights deep partisan divisions. Republicans argue for law and order, uniformity in immigration policy, and support for ICE. Democrats emphasize human rights, local control, and community-based policing. The ideological battle is not just about policy, but the soul of American governance. The future of immigration enforcement under Trump. If reelected, Trump is expected to expand deportation operations, intensify pressure on sanctuary cities, increase use of ICE raids and federal lawsuits. The NYC lawsuit is a preview of what could become a national strategy to dismantle sanctuary protections. Conclusion: a nation divided over immigration. The Trump DOJ lawsuit against New York City over sanctuary policies is more than a legal skirmish. It's a litmus test for the nation's values, governance structure, and approach to immigration. As courts deliberate, the country watches. The future of immigration enforcement may well hinge on the outcome.